you found yourself in a situation where you need to write your research project or your dissertation or your thesis in a hurry? Well, whilst I wouldn't advocate leaving it till the last minute, I know that in reality sometimes this happens, and so in this video today I'm going to give you lots of tips and tricks on how you can write it fast and still get a really good grade. Now, just for a bit of context, my name is Dr. Hayley Stainton. I'm a university lecturer. I have marked probably thousands of research projects and dissertations in my time, and I managed to do my PhD thesis, which is basically a really big research project of around about 80,000 words. And I managed to do that part-time whilst teaching full-time in 3 years, which is pretty rare. So I'm going to give you my tips and advice not only from the perspective of being a university lecturer and marking and supervising lots of students' work, but also from my own experience and what worked for me. So do stay tuned, watch right through until the end, and you're well on your way to success. So tip number 1 is manage the time that you have really well. You might not have a lot of time, but you need to make the best use of what you do have. I suggest that you work out how many weeks, days, maybe even hours you have until you must submit that research project or dissertation or whatever other piece of work it could be. And what you need to do is to create a plan. Because what I see all the time when it's quite clear that students have run out of time is they spend a lot of time on the beginning part of their research project. Oftentimes this will be the literature review and the introduction, and they don't spend very much time on the latter parts of the project, for example, the results and the analysis and the discussion. Now actually, oftentimes the discussion chapter will give you more marks than other chapters, so it is definitely not one to scrimp on. So what I recommend you do is to create a systematic plan. Work out what you have to do. Have a look at where the grades are awarded and for which parts you get the most or the least grades, and that will give you some indication on which areas to allow more time and which areas to allow less time. Then you need to work out how many hours you have available, taking out things like classes you may have, work commitments, social commitments, although perhaps you might want to minimize those if you are in a rush to complete your work, and work out clearly how long you have to spend on each section. So that doesn't make sense. So plan your time, put a plan in place, decide what you're going to work on, when, how long you're going to spend on each section. My second tip is to find a way to motivate yourself to do it. Give yourself a reason to finish that research project and to finish it fast. This could be a well-deserved glass of wine at the end of the day. It could be a midday treat for lunch or a Netflix binge on the weekend. Have something to look forward to and to motivate yourself to get that work done. In my case with my PhD, I had a pretty good motivational factor in the final year that I was pregnant, and I was under no illusions it would be easy to have a newborn baby and still be working on my PhD. So I was on it. Prior to being pregnant though, the wine and the chocolate definitely worked. And my tip number 3 is do not underestimate the power of downtime. None of us are robots. As much as we might try, we do need some downtime. And this is really, really important. It's integral that you just simply don't work so hard that you result in burnout. Plan your time so that evenings are free, or so that you have a couple of hours break from your research project each day. And when I was doing my PhD, I would always start work at 8-9 o'clock in the morning. I would always have an hour off for my lunch, during which time I would have something to eat and usually watch the news, or sometimes I'd watch an episode or two of Friends. And I would always finish my work 4 or 5 p.m. I never ever worked in the evenings. My brain doesn't work well in the evenings. You need to figure out how you work best. And quite often the evenings would involve a glass of wine or two and maybe even some chocolate as my reward. I think having that regular downtime, knowing it's always coming, it's always going to be there, was really, really beneficial for me. Maybe it will be for you too. And tip number 4 is to only do what matters. Yes, in an ideal world, you would read everything and anything in the area of your research project. But the reality is that you need to write your research project as quickly as possible. You simply don't have the time. I recommend you use skimming and scanning techniques to select what's relevant to read and what isn't. Don't waste your time working on things that won't make the final cut. So prioritize what you think is important and what you don't. Reading the abstract or the contents page can be a really good indication as to whether, is this worth my time or not? If we could rewind and we could have more time, I would say absolutely read as much as you can. But if you're in a hurry, it's not a reality. And my tip number 5 is to use and to embrace technology. Research projects can take a really long time to complete, but I'm guessing because you're watching this video, you don't have a lot of time. So why not turn to technology to help where it can? There are lots of fantastic software programs that you can use. For example, if you're using quantitative data, you might want to use Excel or SPSS, which can help you to analyze that data and put it into graphs that you can copy and put into your work really quickly, much more quicker than most people could calculate it at least. If you're doing qualitative data analysis, then you could use NVivo. NVivo is another great program that helps you to organize your qualitative data, and it can save you time. And there are a range of technologies that you can use now too. There are referencing technologies. There are loads of student apps. I have a video on student apps. Check that one out. See if there's any that will be beneficial to you. But they can help with things like referencing, managing your time, organizing your time, lots of things like that. And you may well know more about technology that you could use than I do. So have a look into that. What can you use? And my 6th and final tip is to get paid help. If all else fails and you really are running out of time to complete your research project, maybe you want to consider paying somebody to help you. And no, I do not mean paying somebody to write your work for you. This is academic misconduct, can get you kicked off your course. Just don't do it, don't go there. That's not what I mean. What I mean is to pay somebody to help with things like transcribing your interviews, proofreading your work, or formatting it. The research project, of course, must be created and written by you, but you can employ help along the way with other elements. And there are some great places that you can look to find people to help you with this sort of stuff. There are lots of academic organisations that offer sort of proofreading, assistance and things like that. Grammarly's quite a good one, and I actually have a free download link for that down in the description. Grammarly helps you to proofread your work, look for spelling and grammatical errors, but also to help you with plagiarism checks too, which can be pretty handy. So download that, I recommend that. But also there are lots of people on websites like Fiverr and Upwork that advertise sort of freelance services. So you might find there is somebody who can proofread your work for spelling and grammar. And this is especially popular for people who do not have English as their first language. So to have somebody who is a native speaker look over your work can be invaluable. It can really help you with enhancing your grades. So all in all, those are my super fast 6 top tips for completing your work super fast. Now I do have lots of other videos, so if you have missed some of your lectures, or if you've forgotten, or if you didn't take notes, I suggest you watch them. So I will put these up here now, and I hope they're helpful. If this video has been helpful to you, do me a favour and give it a like so that it can spread to more people just like you.